And welcome to this episode of Clickteam Fusion. So we started making the level editor last episode. In this episode we're going to try and create a toolbar for the top so we can select a tile. Enjoy! Hi, I'm Chris Gilpin. Welcome to this episode. So what we're looking at doing today is creating a toolbar at the top so that we can select which tile we want to do, and then eventually we'll be able to click on the actual tile within our level and it will change it to that tile. Now it's a bit boring at the moment, we've only got 2 tiles, but if we create this with 2 tiles but allow it to expand in case we have more tiles, then we'll be able to build for the future. And you should always do that with programming. You should always, yes, I've got 2 at the moment, but I might have 100, I might have 1,000. So we're going to assume that maybe we're only going to be using 32, but I'll be talking about how we deal with if we had more than 32 tiles in later episodes. Now you might think, well, why 32? That's just a number that's just come out of your head. It's 32 is our maximum at the moment because there are only 32 directions that we can put an object into that active2 object. Okay, so we only have 32 directions. Now that's not going to be a problem for later, because what we might need to do is create another active object and be able to work out how to deal with that. And it's actually relatively simple to change our code later on if we build our code right now. So I'm not going to deal with that issue. We're going to pretend we only need 32 tiles for now, and then we'll deal with that issue when it crops up maybe later on. So let's get started. So we've got our level editor, which is this frame 2. And this is all our level editor. Don't forget this is blocked off from build time, so the end user won't ever see this unless you decide that you want to allow them to do a level editor. But the way I would do this would be different. The way I'm doing this now is I'm assuming that I've got my monitor, whether it is 920 by 1080 or whatever it is, and I'm not dealing with the problems of people with smaller monitors or people doing this on the iPhone or whatever. So I'm not that worried about responsiveness for this one. Okay, so we want so if I run it now, and remember run frame, and you can press F7, but I don't like doing too many shortcuts because you can't see me doing the shortcuts. And what I want is a toolbar here at the top where I can select the grass and the sea tiles, and then eventually I'll be able to click on this and change them, which at the moment they're very static. So what I need to do is create some way of doing that. Now, there are different ways of doing this, and there are 2 main different ways of doing this that I've found relatively simple. What you need to do is be able to click on it and be able to see the fact that you've clicked on it. And there are 3 ways. Let's go for 3 ways. 3 main ways I know of doing this. Okay, so if you click on the tile, what you can do is have a tile that's not been highlighted and a picture for a tile that has been highlighted, and swap the images. So you might have the tile, and then you might have the tile with like a yellow tint to show that it's been highlighted. That's going to be an issue for us because that would mean we'd need 2 of every tile. We'd need to go into them, tint them to a yellow or whatever. So that's not one I'm going to pick. A different way of doing it is you could have the tile and a slightly bigger box around each tile, and then you could change the colour of that background tile so it has like a yellow border around it. And that's really good for some of the designs I do. Very, very powerful, very, very easy to use, because you just have the tile and it's really only the background tile you're ever looking at. Whether the user's clicked on it, it changes yellow. If the user clicks on that one, it changes all the other ones back to white, okay, for instance. I'm going to pick the third way because I find it a lot easier. Okay, so this is going to seem bizarre, but it's a really, really powerful way of doing this that Clickteam allows us to do through something called transparency, and I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, so first of all we need to create the toolbar. So what's the toolbar going to look like? Well, I'm going to double click, I'm going to put an active in, I'm just going to drop it, and what I want is just pure white. So what I'm going to do is press Ctrl and A and then delete. I could have done it through selecting and then pressing delete. And I'm just going to get my fill tool, So click on white and I'm just going to click done, then OK. And I'm just going to position this to 0, 0. Now the easiest way of doing that is just go to the position and just click in 0, 0, but of course double click on this, I need the hotspot to be at the top left, and I always get caught out with that one. So I click on that and then just click 0, 0, and that will position it in the top left. Now all my tiles are at the moment 32, remember they're 64, but I've made them half as big. Okay, so if I click on that, and do I want them half as big? Yeah, I kind of probably do want them half as big, and then they'll be the same size, and that'll be fine. Okay, now I could stretch this out and try and guess the width is going to be, but since I'm going to press Ctrl and Z now, since we learnt about stretching like scale, we're going to use that method instead. So I'm going to go to the event editor, and I'm going to insert a new group before this one. Okay, and I'm going to title this, what am I going to title it? Toolbar. And I'm going to do this before anything else. So I'm actually going to drag this before everything. I'm going to do this first, because this creation of the tiles might depend on how big this toolbar is. So if I do this toolbar first, that would be brilliant. I'm just going to do start, click to always, replace, start of frame. I say right at the start of the frame, I want that scale to be, so the Y scale. Now this is where I get really confused. Okay, so what I want it to do is be the width of the whole page. Now what I could do is just make it very, very big, make it 5,000 wide, which would work, because it doesn't matter if it's too wide, all that matters is it's too short. There are ways of calculating this. So at the moment it's 32, so I need to work out how much bigger the width of the screen is. So if I right click, this is where it gets complicated. So application window, client, horizontal size of client area, and if I divide that by 32, that will show me how much bigger it needs to be. Now be careful with this, that will round it. If you don't want it to round it, always put a 0.0 or times top and bottom of the fraction. Remember, division is basically the fraction by 1.0, and that works as well. I don't really mind if it is a decimal. Okay, let's click on that. Let's click OK. It's wide, so it doesn't matter. I'll do maximum speed. Let's run that now. Let's run the frame. Okay, and that is gone in the wrong direction. Set Y scale. I'm an idiot, because it should be set X scale. Let's copy that. Let's delete that. Obviously I want it to be wide. Some of you would probably shout at the screen then, going, no, you want it to be X, not Y. Okay, let's run that. Now, it doesn't seem to be showing up, because probably what's happened is it's got hidden behind these guys. So I did have this before. I had an always thing at the top, so I'm going to insert new event. I'm going to have an always, and I'm going to make sure this is always on top. So position or order even, bring to front. So always bring that to front. Run application. Run frame. Keep doing that. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, now that seems to sort of stop, unfortunately, there. Okay, so it's obviously working okay and then not working. The reason for that is because I've made it maximized, so it's done it perfectly for the small window, but it hasn't updated it. So what I should do is put this as an always. Okay, let's run frame. And there we go, it just updates it. So we've got our nice little toolbar there. Now we need to populate the toolbar with our icons. Okay, now I'm going to go back into the frame editor. Now something we need to do at this point is tell Clickteam, right, how many directions am I actually using? At the moment I'm using 2. Now this is going to be annoying, a little bit annoying, because every time you add a new one, yes, that it will be added to the level editor, but you're going to have to change this number to say how many you've got. The Clickteam, I don't believe, and please comment if you think it does have a way of doing this, it can't tell which directions are actually being used. And some of you might comment going, oh no, there's this brilliant way of doing it, please tell me. But at the moment I've got to tell it that it's just the first 2 directions that we've got. Okay, so instead of using a global, which you don't have many of, so if I go here, global values, we haven't got many of these aren't unlimited. Okay, some of you go message me in and say that yes, they are actually now unlimited. I don't think they are. Instead of using a global, I don't want this number to be global really, it's just the level editor that needs to use it. So I've done this in previous videos, I haven't done this in this tutorial yet. I'm going to double click, I'm going to create an active, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to colour this active, I'm just going to colour the sides of it, and this is a common way of doing it. This isn't my original way of doing it. This is, I've copied this off loads of other people. Now this is going to be a data store. So what I'm going to do is change the name of it to data store. And this is going to be my store of all the data that I've got on this level. Now the first bit of data, so if I go into the ultra values, so go to ultra values, and that, whatever I type in here, this object will remember and I'll be able to reference it, and I'll show you how in a second. If I do new ultra value, I'm going to type in a number of, and in fact normally I do camel case here, number of tiles, click OK, and at the moment we have 2 tiles. So I've now got a reference, a number that I can reference in my event editor. And whenever I put a new tile in, I've just got to remember to go to the data store and add the new tile here. So change that to a 3 rather than a 2 if I added a new tile to this. Okay. So I now have that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fast loop. So at the start of the frame, I'm going to do a fast loop, and I'm going to loop through. So start loop, create icons. Okay, and I'm going to press Ctrl and C to copy that. And I want to do it the amount of times that I've said in there. So values, ultra values, and that one. Click OK. Now you might say, well, why didn't you just write a number 2 in there and then just change that number 2 every time you add a new tile? So if I add a new tile, change that to a 3. That's great if I'm only going to use the number here. But what if I use that number, that 2 at the moment, all the way through my code? I'd have to go through, and I would miss a few out, and then I'd get irritated because I couldn't find it, etc, etc. If I reference the ultra value of number of tiles for this data store that I've created, then I just need to change it in one place. And if I don't change it, it will be instantly obvious, and I'll go, right, I need to change it in the data store. Okay, I'll right click that and say on loop, and I'm going to press Ctrl and V. I'm just copying that loop name again, and I'm going to create, what am I going to do? Yes, I'm going to create object. I'm going to create the active 2. It doesn't matter where I put it. I always put 0, 0 at the start, because then if there's any there, then I know that I've done something wrong. I'm going to create it at 0, 0, and I know that I want it at the 0. I want it at the at y equals 0. It's the x that I want to change. Okay, now I need to make sure that these ones are different to, see, this is the problem now, is what's going to happen is these ones are going to fall behind, but that's not going to be a problem. That won't be a problem. Okay. I'm having internal monologue. I'm going to try and externalize it in a second. So what I want to do is position this so that they are spaced out. I'm going to set the x coordinate of the one I've just created, and I'm going to set it to the width. In fact, I might as well just copy and paste this, because I think it's more or less going to be the same. So if I go into that and just copy that and then just update the bits that need changed. So I'm just going to press Ctrl and V. No, I'm not. I'm going to press Ctrl and C on that, Ctrl and V on that. So I'm just going to delete the bits I don't need. The Y position will always be at 0 for now. Okay, so set scale at 0.5, that's good, that's what I want. Set X position, and this is the problem because that loop index is wrong. So let's just double click on that. Let's copy that loop index and let's put that in. So edit, and I'm just gonna paste that in. So Control and V, and it does that sometimes. And I want it times the width of active2. That's good. That's what I want. And I don't want it to set that direction to there. So I'm going to just make sure I copy that again in case I accidentally copied something else. Go to the direction, because I do want it to set a direction, but I just want it to be the loop index. So I'm going to delete all this and just the loop index for that. Okay, let's click OK. Now the problem with this is these will be created, but then this will be brought to the front. So I don't need this at the front, because what I'm going to do is shift all of these other things down. So when I say for the Y position of the actual level, I want it, let's say 40. So I'm going to push it 40 down to allow room for the toolbar and a little bit more space. Okay, I've done quite a lot there, and I did that quite quickly because we've done a lot of that stuff before. So if I click Run Frame, and then hopefully we've got a nice toolbar there, and we've got the two different colours. Okay, brilliant. You can see that there's a problem here. I'm not quite sure what that problem is. I think it's an issue with when I expand, for some reason it's adding more on. Okay, so maybe we'll deal with that later. Okay, dokie, right. So I've said that I need a way of selecting them. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to go back to the frame editor and I'm going to create another active. Love creating actives. And this one, it should be 32. Yeah, it is. Let's double click on that. I'm just going to put the hotspot at the top left so that it's just a bit easier to work stuff out. I'm not a fan of Clickteam changing that. I'm going to press Ctrl and A and delete, get rid of all that, and I'm just going to change it to a red colour. Now what I'm going to do is every time you click on it, I'm going to move this over it. Okay, so this is going to be tile highlighted. Okay, so let's go back to the event editor, and I'm going to say new condition, that the mouse has clicked on an object. Okay, single click, and I'm going to say this active2. Okay, and I'm going to position this. I'm going to position this selector tile at 0, 0 from active2. Okay, there are problems with this, and we'll deal with those in a second. Let's run frame. Let's see if this works. It doesn't work. Okay, and I know why. Because I need to make sure this is always at the front. And this I do need always at the front. So run a frame. It works perfectly. But it works on everything. It works on all the tiles. Okay, so we've got an issue there. Now these bottom ones aren't actually tiles, so I'm not quite sure what's happening there. But anyway, okay, so it works perfectly. Apart from that, so there's two issues there. First, I need some way of saying no, just these tiles here, right? Not these tiles. Second thing I need to do is have some way of figuring out how to see the tile that I'm actually selecting. So let's deal with that first issue first. So what I need to do is change something in this to say, no, this is special. This is our toolbar one, rather than our level editor one, and that's where alterable values come in. So what I want to do is set an alterable value. I'm going to set alterable value A to 1. 1 means it's in the toolbar, 0 means it's not, and they're by default 0. Then I'm going to say, okay, insert only if the alterable value of that tile is 1. So only when you click on the tile and it's a toolbar tile, then you can change it. Let's run that, see if that works. So click on these still work, but this doesn't work at all. So that works perfectly. Okay, second problem is I can't see the tile, and this is where I've alluded to transparency comes in. So if I click on that active 3, and I never remember where these are, I think it's on the first one, and I want to say an effect. I want to add an effect to it. So when I click on that, this comes up. I click standard, semi-transparent. I don't know whether you need to do this, but I always do it. And blend coefficient shows how transparent you want it to be, and this is just trial and error. So try different ones out. Let's try that. Let's see how that looks. It's still a bit too opaque, so I'm gonna make it more transparent. Let's see how this is. Again, still a little bit too much. Let's try that, because I want to still see the tiles. And I wonder if the colour, so I'm going to double click this, I'm going to change it to a yellow. Yellow sometimes. Okay, and you might say, well, hang on, that still doesn't look correct. Okay, now this works on almost all the ones I've picked. On this one, I think because the tiles are very, very different colours, it's very difficult to pick a colour that's going to show up. Okay, so this method looked really good, but actually I'm starting to think, I'm not quite sure about it now. Okay. So if something doesn't work, change it. So instead of transparency, okay, I'm going to remove transparency. So I don't know how to do that. I click on none. I'm going to get rid of transparency. I'll put that back to 0 anyway. So I'm going to get rid of transparency. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, right, how else can I do this? Well, I could do this just with a big checkbox. Really, couldn't I? That would be a method of doing it. Remember, this isn't for the end user, this is just for us. So I could put a big green tick. Let's get rid of that, let's make it a bit thicker. There we are. Why not? So when I click on them, big green tick appears. Now, the green tick doesn't work on that one, because you can't really see it. So what I'll probably do is put a black border around it as well, so it shows up. So let me give out that. Let's put black border around the edge of it, so it shows up for if there's green there. It doesn't matter really about how good it looks, so it's really only about us. So that seems to do the trick, and you might experiment with different ways of doing it. You could put a black border around them or a yellow border around them, like a solid yellow border. That would also work. But it's all about just you knowing, you're the back end person, you know which tile you've selected. So when you change these, you know which one you're changing them to. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I've been yattering on for a while. And so we're starting to get a way of doing the level editor. The level editor is quite a complicated thing, which is why I'm doing it over several videos. But you can see now we haven't got much to go because we've got a way of selecting each tile. All we need to do is be able to click on the tiles and it change them to say C, and then update the array. So that's all we've got left to do. All we've got left to do. I'm sure there'll be little problems along the way, but we'll try and deal with them. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please click a like. If you really liked it, please click subscribe. And please, any comments, if there's any other ways you know of doing this, anything that you look at this and go, oh, I've done this a different way, is this better? It probably is, and I'll hopefully maybe incorporate some of them later on. Thank you very much for watching.